Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Scree Gear is more than apparel. It's a tribute to the relentless, the tireless, the true guardians of the wilderness. It's for those who seek not just a game, but a legacy. Not just a sport, but a way of life. In our gear, you're more than a hunter. You're a story, a tradition, a legend in the making. Scree is your journey, your triumph, your success. Join the working man revolution. Success awaits.
Right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, well, we're going to talk about men, why they're afraid to take action, why we have such problems in the workforce, basically kind of the whole mindset of what it is to be a man and why we're very different than we used to be 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 70 years ago. It's funny, when I think of the 50s, I'm always like, yeah, like 50 years ago. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's not that long anymore.
Not the same thing anymore.
With the intro, I tried to think.
50 years ago.
Exactly.
50 years ago, people were wearing had perms and were wearing bell bottoms, so I don't know if that's the go-to anymore for a man.
Yeah, exactly. It's bad. I was actually looking at the intro, and I was like, what's the most terrifying thing I can put in there? And I was like, freaking Jack in the Box. No,
yeah, I almost ran for it when I saw that thing pop up.
Exactly. I was like, well, if it goes with the theme song and it pops right at the end, at least you won't be, too terrified. It's because it's always like random, like a good one.
You never know what
that shit just terrifying. I'm just saying. So anyway, not a thing. So basically we have a lot going on in the world, and it just seems like men are not the same. And that whole traditional sense of men being the provider or, the go-to who's going to take care of people and, really help somebody out. It's not there anymore. I think it kind of came with feminism and equal rights, but I also feel like the schools, and I don't think it's just equal rights. I think that's an excuse. I think that the schools have really tried to shape what society is. There's really a push for people to kind of just obey, like you will obey and you're going to learn that. And we're kind of conditioned to that. And we that's
basically how school works. The first 17 years of your life that you're taught that lesson over and over again.
Exactly. And that's kind of the thing is we get so conditioned, and, it's all about, just conforming and doing what you're told. Obviously parents aren't, in order to survive, you have to work a lot, which it's funny because we're going to talk about some people who aren't out there working later in the episode, but a lot of the parents are out there working all the time and they can't be at home raising their kids. And so what ends up happening is the school ends up raising the kids, right? Or sometimes like the grandparents and stuff. But even with that, the grandparents a lot of time are exhausted and, from we've already been handling life,
Yeah, there's no comparison from a 2-year-old to a 72-year-old. That energy level doesn't match up.
Yeah, it's not easy. So, all right. So one of the things that really first struck me early on, and this is years back, going back 20 years, right? On September 11th in 2001, when they were on that plane and people didn't take action. Now we can talk about in Pennsylvania, where they overpowered the crew and took down the plane, and that's great. But why did all the men on the plane let hijackers crash a plane into the World Trade Towers? Yeah. Now, there's answers for that. It's not, I'm not saying those guys were wrong. Well, I mean, the end result, more action would have changed. But why was the mindset there? And that was the mindset of people all the time. And I feel like then at that time, maybe my mindset would have been the same as them. Like, oh, well, nobody else is doing anything. And even if you suggest, hey, let's get together and overpower these guys, everyone else around you is going to be pulling at you going, whoa, don't do that. You're putting us in danger, that kind of thing. And you want to be aware of what you're thinking and what we're, going through as a society. So that's kind of one of the things, like why would you sit there and not try and stop a guy hijacking a plane? Now, obviously, fear is a big factor. What comes to mind, Kevin? Like, what's in your head?
A lot of those, previous to that, a lot of those hijackings were basically, diffused before many people got killed. A lot of the times 1 or 2 people get killed right at the beginning. You got to set an example if you're going to try and, take over a plane. Right. But ultimately, a lot of those people end up, being able to walk off the plane at the end of things. And
very true.
Not really the scenario anymore, though. If you think about being on a plane a lot of those previous hijackings, the hijackers were armed with firearms, right?
Yes.
On September 11th, they only had box cutters. It's not real easy to kill somebody with a box cutter unless you get it, right up on their neck. I think they did that with a stewardess on each of those planes just to, terrify people. When you see that sort of thing happen, man, that's scary stuff. But,
Well, I think that's a valid point. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, that is definitely a consideration that, hey, they've always kind of landed the plane and then there's some kind of hostage standoff where they negotiate and whatever. And there is a chance that you're going to get people killed. When you go and try and stop stuff, they might, there was a scene on Yellowstone and like a sheriff is in a diner and he's being held at gunpoint. And they kind of go around the back to just shoot the bad guys and get the upper hand. Well, almost everybody in the diner ends up getting killed, Like, yeah, you stop the bad guys, but pretty much you kind of got everybody killed too, and that's something that goes through your head. And I think, like, the definition of a man, I mean, that's kind of something that's coming back. I think that's why, like, shows like Yellowstone are such a draw for people, even like Sons of Anarchy was the big hit, right? Or, Yellowstone and before that, The Sopranos, because these were men that actually did manly things. And I'm not talking about crime. I'm not talking about just murdering people. I think what people connect with is the take action kind of, I'm not indecisive and unsure, but I actually move forward and, do what needs to be done. And I think that's really changed in our culture. People are very insecure, unsure of themselves and question everything they do. And everything, I guess, does get questioned and rediscussed in the media and on talk shows. And they, there's a video of everything that ever happens. And it's different. It's definitely different than it used to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, toxic masculinity is a thing that's been pounded into our heads, acting like a man is evil. Don't mansplain to people. Don't be so aggressive. Why are you so aggressive about this? And that sort of shit, it's really a bunch of horse shit, really. You know what I mean?
Right.
The best thing you can do for your life, with every interaction, is just stand up straight, look somebody in the eye, have your shoulders back.
Yeah.
Be ready and be engaged. I deal with a couple of people that I really have a hard time getting anything done with them, because they always just kind of stare at me with a blank
Yes.
face, and I'm talking to them and I can't get any kind of reaction out of them, and it's just it's not helpful for anybody.
Right. No,
just
that's
a timidity. Is that a word, or did I just make that up?
It might be now. How about that? See, that's the thing. Just go bold, Kevin. Just own it.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, it's a word now. See, that's the difference. But I mean, to be honest, I even feel like, I think one of the things, like as a prepper, is I'm constantly playing out scenarios. Right. And I'm like, what would I do if this happens? And I think going in and having a plan definitely shapes and changes how we react to things. And I think a lot of people don't do that. They don't even foresee possibilities or consider what might happen. And I think that gives us an advantage. And also, I mean, to be honest, an advantage of not coming out like a coward. It's like, everybody afterward, oh, I should have done something. I was watching some videos about this, and some people were talking about, somebody was raped on a train in Philadelphia, and people just stood there and didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And that's insane and ridiculous, but it's what everybody did. And you're just like, how? Where people talk about, people get attacked in the street, and all the people are standing in the windows in the buildings on either side and are looking out and watch it happen, but nobody calls the police.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what happened with, do you remember the O.J. Simpson case?
Okay.
That all happened, people called the police that somebody was screaming that, getting murdered or sounded like somebody was being killed. There's an apartment building right across the street, and not one person looked out the window to see what was going on.
Wow.
And, that sort of stuff. I mean, I don't know. To me, that seems ridiculous, but that's insane. What everybody said. They didn't look out the window. Nobody looked out to see what was going on. And that's wild.
I don't know if people remember, I had mentioned one of my neighbors, was like, oh, well, I saw a suspicious car pull in your driveway and whatever, but I don't know what happened because I went and hid behind my couch. He really told me that. And I'm like, he's like, because I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of world. And like, to me, I couldn't even comprehend what he was saying. I'm like, you saw a car in a driveway across the street and you hid behind your couch?
You hid?
Like, that's amazing. I just can't even.
Yeah, no, that sort of stuff is just wild to me. There's a lot of stuff going on though, and I hear about, nobody wants to anymore. Hear that phrase a lot. Nobody wants to work anymore. But the truth is, unemployment is low. Unemployment hasn't been this low in a long time. The pandemic, unemployment was let me see here real quick. Was at 14.7% during the height of the pandemic. That's
right, like 2019. Yeah,
April 2020 was the high point there, and that's still a lot of people working. That's still a lot of people employed. That's 85% of people still showing up to their job every day. And I know we were talking about back then, we were talking about like the necessary employees,
Yes.
Person who works at that essential, right? The person that works at the grocery store, the cashier and shit, that's making $12 an hour to be there and have everyone cough in their face as they come through. those people that were essential are still making shit money. You know
Yeah,
what I
they
mean?
are.
They didn't increase your pay didn't increase if you work at a cash register checking out groceries. You know, your pay is actually pay for those jobs is going down. Inflation is going up, and the pay is going up, but it's not keeping pace.
Right.
You know, if you look at it, July 2022, wages went up 6.7%, and inflation went up 8.5%. And if you look at that every month going through 2022, it's the same thing.
Right.
Inflation is going up a lot faster than wages are. So effectively, you're making less money for doing the same job every month. And, you know, why are you having a hard time attracting employees? Well, maybe because you treat them like shit and you pay them $12 an hour. Nobody wants to be treated like shit for $12 an hour.
So I'm a little worried because I thought I made good money. Now I actually live in a pretty poor area. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, and my cost of living is like obviously a lot better than your cost of living.
Right.
Right. I know when I had a house next to you, I paid, I think it's like $12,000 a year in property taxes or something insane.
Something ridiculous. Yep.
And now I pay like $1,400 a year in property taxes, and I have 8 times the amount of property. And yeah, but the average manufacturing hourly rate they're saying is $31.44.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, wait a minute. I feel a little left out. I'm like, what's going on here? So I don't know who these people are, but apparently a lot of people are making that. There is 11 million job openings right now. So they are trying to get people, but it turns out making $100,000 a year doesn't really go as far as you thought. Like in my mind, you know, I used to be like, oh, if I could get $100,000 a year,
rich person.
I'd be rich.
Yeah, not the case anymore. Costs you $100,000 just to buy groceries each week.
Yes. I don't know how people are not like using credit cards and for everything. And, I think they are. I mean,
that's definitely happening. Yeah, that's definitely, they said, money owed on credit cards has increased drastically over the past 2 years.
I haven't heard people talking about it, and that's what I'm always like. I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, I know what people are making, and how are they? How are they living?
Surviving,
especially when you know people have $700 car payments and you know all these things. I'm like, I can't relate. I just I don't know.
An average rent now is somewhere around $2,000 a month. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
which is wild to me. I mean, $2,000 a month that would be a big chunk out of my income, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, I pay less than that to own a house with property, but yeah, no, that's
I mean, that's the thing though. A lot of people can't get loans where their payment would be $1,200 a month, but they're paying rent every month for $2,000. So, you know, but I mean, really owning a home is out of reach for most people these days. It used to be, you know, in the 60s, you know, you'd buy a house for $10,000 and you could get that paid off in 5 years. But or buying shit for $10,000
now. I should have looked up the stat, but people didn't do mortgages for a long time. That was like, and then like you said, when it started, it was like a 5-year thing. It wasn't but a lot of people were paying cash for a house. Yeah, you'd save up till you were like 30, you know, or whatever. But it wasn't a thing. It was you bought a house, you know, you got there or mom and dad helped you out or, you know, whatever. It just, it's crazy. But I mean, I guess there's so many people, they're saying there's so many men out there that are not even in the labor force or looking. And that's one of the things with the statistics is men aren't out there even trying to get a job. And maybe it's people, maybe it's not just men, but they're not out there looking. And it's funny. They said, I was looking at the statistics and you're thinking, oh, well, maybe they're stay-at-home dads, right? You know, they're staying at home and raising their babies. But believe it or not, you're more likely to be taking care of a loved one if you're a full-time employee than if you're not an employee at all.
Mm-hmm. Right. That makes, I mean, honestly, that makes sense in the sense that
you feel an urgency to go out.
Expensive. Yeah.
Right.
Taking care of somebody is expensive. And, you know, I think a lot of people are seeing their bills going up every day, every month, every week, you know, grocery store bills, electric bills, you know, car payments, cars are going up, and their paycheck isn't going up. And it's, you know, it's frustrating for a lot of people. People talk about quiet quitting. And, you know, I think a lot of that stuff is, you know, for a lot of people, it just makes sense to them. You know what I mean? If your employee is only paying you enough to get you to show up, why wouldn't you just work hard enough to not get fired? You know what I mean? It's a give and take, and it's a street that goes both ways. If you're working for somebody, though, that is just paying you enough to keep you from quitting, you're working at the wrong place. You know, there's better employers out there. I've worked for a lot of people that were real shitbags. You know what I mean? Real pieces of shit that, you know, were truly trying to take advantage of people. And, you know, you move on, find a different job. It's not worth it for me. You know, it's not worth it to be treated like trash for what you're paying me. I know a lot of people that say nobody wants to work anymore. No, nobody wants to work for you. That's 90% of those people that say that. Nobody wants to work for you because you're an asshole. People don't quit jobs. They quit bosses, you know?
Yeah, no, that definitely sounds right. Well, I mean, the mindset. When I hear employers, you know, when I hear my own employer, you know, give us these meetings to inspire us. Like we had an all employee meeting the other day, and they're like, hey, you know, production is way up. Sales are way up. Everything is way better than last year. So your bonus that you got last year, expected to be smaller this year.
Right.
And you're like, wait, how does
that doesn't make any sense. I was in a meeting day before yesterday, and I was talking to an owner of a company, and he said, listen, we don't want to increase your cost. I mean, inflation has gone up 6%, and typically we would increase your cost by 6%, but that's not really fair to you because we haven't increased employees' wages by 6%. I'm like, well, sounds like you're a dickhead, you know?
Yeah.
And you're wondering why you can't get enough people to work for you. Yeah, that might be the issue right there.
That was it. So at the same meeting, guys like, well, don't worry, you know, we're expanding, we're building all this new stuff, and don't worry, even though what you do is going away, you don't have your job going away because we can't even get one employee, let alone, you know, the 50 new employees we do need over there. So there's always jobs. And you're like, yeah, well, why is it you can't get any employees? You know, you know, you see a lot of these employers now are willing to train and willing to do stuff. But it's funny, I talk to my kids but it's funny because people are like, oh, they won't come work here. Well, all right, my company can't find employees. However, they demand 5 to 7 days a week at 10 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, people aren't really excited about that. They don't want to be a slave to you, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's the thing. It's random. Like, hey,
10 hours
you might
a day, 6 days a week.
Right.
That doesn't leave a whole lot of time.
And the way they do it is like, hey, you might have this weekend off. We're going to let you know Friday night if you're going to be off Saturday.
Right.
And it's like, well, yeah, that's not that cool. You know, my schedule, like I'm in maintenance and it's different. We have, you know, planning and we do actually a little bit better. But, you know, the rest of them, it's like, it's a gamble and nobody wants to be treated like crap or like they're a slave. And that's a real thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So why are people not going into work? Why are people not showing up? Aside of pay, there's a couple of reasons. You know, a lot of people were scared to quit their jobs. They didn't know what they were going to do if they didn't have a job. And then everybody got laid off during the pandemic, and everyone realized, oh shit, I made it.
The world didn't
survived.
End. Right.
Yeah. And now maybe I can pursue something that I'm interested in a little bit more. Maybe more people are working for themselves. But I don't know. I think the real issue is people are why would you work a job 6 days a week if you still can't pay your bills? Because you can not work all day and also not pay your bills.
Yeah, that works out.
So, it's one of those things. Costs keep going up, and pay is not going up, and that is an issue.
Yeah. Well, that kind of circles back to the other stuff. It amazes me. It amazes me that like nobody wants to work and like not be able to pay your bills, but there's like no consequences. Mm-hmm. I have a coworker who bought all kinds of, he was always about buying guns and suppressors and everything, and kind of maxed out every credit card and everything that he had. And he basically just was like, oh, I'm not going to pay my bills. And that just worked out. It just like, he just didn't pay his bills. And he's like, yeah, come get the stuff. And they're like, well, you have to do a bankruptcy and this and that. And he's like, nah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And if you're going to declare bankruptcy, you might as well run up all your credit cards before you do, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. But he didn't even bother. He's just like, whatever, I'm just not going to pay you. And it turns out he's still alive and not in jail and just kind of goes on. Now, so there's no consequences to things like that, but we have fear of like consequences of all these other things that we do. And that goes back to that scared to act, we're talking about, if you see like a policeman, right, getting beat up, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to go help him because I might get in trouble, and that's the craziest thing. But I can understand, like, that kind of goes through your head. Like,
right.
Well, is he just going to yell at me, get out of here, I'm a professional, and whatever, as he's getting his ass kicked, or, another cop might come up and shoot you because, who knows?
Well, I mean, that happened not that long ago. Somebody stopped an active shooter and then got shot by the cops when the cops showed up. That sounds right. So, I mean, stuff like that does happen. And those are the stories that scare people. You know what I mean? That's not the standard, that's not what generally happens. That's one example, and it's anecdotal, but you hear those stories and you think that, it's going to happen to you. Somebody breaks into your house and tries to attack you and you shoot them. You just committed murder. You know what I mean? You have to, defend yourself. You're going to have to get a lawyer.
There's money and consequences. Exactly.
It's better than getting your ass beat and have all your stuff stolen.
And being a coward your whole life. You have to live with yourself. That's kind of
right. Exactly. I mean, those sorts of things, everybody wants you to act appropriately and legally and, kindly, but that's not really what every situation calls for, Being a man means knowing when to act, acting appropriately is something that, when everything's illegal, it gets tricky to do anything that's anywhere and in any way aggressive, right? You get worried about that sort of stuff. Everybody's screaming about toxic masculinity and mansplaining and all that sort of stuff, but nobody talks about toxic femininity. You know what I mean? That sort of behavior is not appropriate for men. And just fucking grow a spine. Shit. Sometimes it worries me about that sort of stuff. And a lot of people aren't going to college anymore. They say the average cost, if you take out loans and pay them back with the interest, the average cost of a bachelor's degree is $500,000.
Wow,
more than
that's
$500,000,
insane, huh?
which is insane. You're not going to make that in 10 years, even with the bachelor's degree. Even if you don't, even if you don't have a house that you live in that you pay for, and don't pay for food or don't pay for anything, don't have a car payment or anything like that. That sort of cost is insane. And honestly, if I was a teenager right now or had a teenage kid in my house, I'd encourage them to go learn a trade, become a plumber,
all day,
a carpenter,
right?
an electrician. Those are the jobs that pay, and it's not going to cost you a fortune to learn how to do it. So, those things are crazy. Now, if you are looking for a job,
you have one.
A pointer here.
All right, what do you got?
So if you're looking for a job, ideally, the best name you can have is Tanner.
Okay.
The worst name you can have is Demetrius.
Really?
So if you're applying for jobs and your name is Demetrius, change that name, man.
Change your name? Okay.
Yeah, you
go with the middle name or something.
White upper class, change it to Piper or something like that. Connor.
Piper? Is Piper a white Tanner. Upper class name? I'm not sure it is.
Yeah, people are naming boys that. It's crazy.
Really?
Wild stuff, man, but
all right.
Whatever. I feel like I've met 2 Connors in my life, and they had really punchable faces, both of them.
Yeah.
So just putting it out there. I don't know if the name has anything to do with it, but
you did want to punch him. We can confirm that.
Yeah. But I mean, then again, somebody did tell me yesterday that I had a very punchable face, which fair enough.
When I was a kid, my grandmother did say, every time I look at you, I want to hit you as hard as I can. So
that's something, right? Yeah.
Punchable face right there.
Right there.
I know if you ask my wife on occasion, she might be down for a punch in the face,
Uh-huh.
So, to each their own. It turns out, I don't know. It's an ugly world. That's what I can tell you. But it's amazing to me that we are so conditioned. And I think it comes from, people don't have purpose, right? And when you don't have purpose, I feel like you don't have anything to defend. A lot of people, I mean, I don't want to just blame like social media or that kind of stuff, but people are always looking for just a distraction. And I guess, work can be a distraction, right? You can just, I'm not thinking about life because I just go do my nonsense distraction thing, So there's something, you could make an argument back at me. I'm not saying that things are blind and absolute, right? But people will just stare at nothing or watch a TV series or just go through, tons of stuff like that. And, that's something to do, but I don't know. You want something productive where you have something at the end, right? That's my point. You want to build up to something, and that's kind of what gives you purpose. Now maybe making your kid into something amazing is your purpose, and that's okay. And people can get real fulfillment from that, providing for your family by going to work nonstop and working 20 hours straight, doing tons of overtime. That's the thing.
That can be fulfilling for people.
That can be fulfilling because you're like, hey, now my house is paid off. Or now, whatever, after, 20 years, whatever it takes, maybe you buy a more modest house and maybe your house is paid off in 2 years because you're, doing ridiculous overtime and you take advantage of that. Because in theory, right, you're making $100,000 a year, you buy a $60,000 house, then that's a possible thing, right? You live within your means. Some people do things like that, right? But it turns out kids want to eat all the time, right? That's what we're saying, right? Yeah. The kids got to eat. So maybe don't have babies, right? Maybe that's the thing. I don't know.
That is a thing that's happening in the United States. Our population is decreasing because people aren't having babies because they're fucking expensive. You know what I mean?
They're brutal.
You don't want to act like nobody says that kids are cheap, but they, there's a serious time investment in children and a money investment, right? You can ignore your kids all the time, but they're going to,
a lot of people do that.
A lot of people do that, but that's not ideal. And
a tablet or an iPhone is the babysitter.
Takes care of it, right? Just put a tablet in front of that kid and they'll take care of themselves. Let TV teach them,
And I think,
I know a lot of people freaked out during the pandemic because now their kids were at home all day. They didn't have a babysitter. And how can you go to work if your 7-year-old's at the house all day, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people had issues with that sort of stuff. And we treat schools like babysitters, right? We expect them to take care of them. And the truth of the matter is God knows what your kid's learning at school, learning about, transsexual teddy bears. I saw a book about that not too long ago. But at the same time, we worry about what the schools are teaching our kids. But then they come home, we stick them in front of the TV or in front of the tablet, and it's 10 times worse than anything that they'll learn in school. How long is it before your 6-year-old figures out how to spell boobs and starts searching that on Google? That could end bad.
Yep, exactly. No, that's it. Kids want to eat, they just freaking, it can be expensive. That's what it comes down to. I know with my boys, I just told them, look, you can't bring a girl home and be having sex in my house. That's not going to fly. And once kind of made it really difficult, they were like, I got to move out. They just never came back. They're like, no, that's not going to work. You do what you got to do. Right.
Right.
But yeah, it turns out that didn't work with girls though. I'm just saying, putting that out there, I don't know. Girls, I was like, yeah,
you go to their boyfriend's
house.
You
can't bring boys here. Out. And they're like, whatever. I got a car. I can go somewhere or whatever. I don't know what they do, but yeah, you got to keep feeding them. And this whole healthcare till 26 somehow. But what gets me even more is you're responsible to pay your kids healthcare till they're 26, but you can't say, I want to go into the doctor and figure out what's going on. No, the privacy, that's not your business.
Right.
And the bills come and are like, they withhold the name of the doctor. And you're like, well, I don't even know what this bill is. Well, how do I know if it's right? And they're like, oh, just keep paying, don't worry about it. Just shut up.
But parents going in with their kid to the doctor has had negative repercussions. There was a long time where they thought syphilis could be transmitted via toilet seat because all these girls were getting syphilis, and mom said they never had sex before, and mom's sitting there next to the doctor,
and the girl's like, "Yep, mom, yep, you're right.
You're right. I'm still a virgin. I don't know how I got the syphilis, but whatever. It all works."
Yeah, exactly. No, that's definitely a thing. I don't know. No, I mean 100%. I don't want to be going in with the kid or whatever. I'm just saying it's just weird that you're paying bills that you have no, say or authority over, right? Mm-hmm. And you can just kind of keep going, and it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think that a lot of people are resigning themselves to living in a boring dystopia. They see the world and they see the jobs that are being offered to them, but a lot of the times you just have to make your own way. You know what I mean? You have to make your decide what it is you want from life and go after that. And maybe that involves going to work for 60 hours a week so you can make money and get things started. Maybe it means working 2 jobs. Maybe it means, really having to hustle.
Right.
But, it all depends on what you're trying to get out of life. And a lot of people they look around themselves, they look at their parents, they look at their friends, their neighbors, and they see a lot of depressed people that are miserable with their jobs. So why would I want to get a job if everybody's hates the job they have,
Right.
And it's your responsibility, and it's my responsibility to make sure these guys, these kids can see a brighter future,
Right.
They look back, and when grandma and grandpa could buy a house for 10 grand, and when they could go to college for $8,000 for a 4-year degree,
right,
and now the ocean's on fire and all the boomers are dying off, and everything's going to shit, and it gets depressing.
Yeah.
It's depressing for a lot of these kids.
No doubt. No, and that's the thing. I think, like, if you watch the news, the world's always ending and whatever. It's funny whenever I used to be the big news junkie because I was out on the road in a, work van all day long, driving from house to house doing repairs. And so I'd listen to talk radio or whatever, the audiobooks get expensive. I still do a fair amount of audiobooks, but, that kind of thing, you needed the distraction or whatever. And it felt like the world was ending every other day. And it turns out if you just shut the news off, it's not that bad.
Yeah, life is pretty good.
Life goes on for you. And I'm not saying, don't vote, don't waste your time. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying it turns out you can figure out what's going on in about 10 minutes when you kind of look at things, talk to some people. You don't need to let it consume you, left and right. The only thing I would say, like as a prepper, there is an advantage to having your finger on the pulse of society that you kind of can foresee when things are coming. I mean, to be honest, that Chinese balloon situation, it could have been a real threat. It was bigger, that payload, than people understand. They said it was several buses long, that payload. It wasn't nothing, Right. They could have, when they describe how EMP's balloon height is the right thing for that, I mean, that's a real thing. It was insane to let that get into the middle of our country. And as a prepper, that's something that you should be like, hey, I need to make sure I got my stuff in order. And honestly, that I'm not too far away from my house because things could go bad. Yeah. I'm not trying to spread fear and paranoia. That's not my point. My point is you pay attention to things going on because it kind of, it can affect the outcome. When stock markets are plummeting or doing anything, you need to be aware. Hey, maybe things are going to go bad. Hey, things are really picking up with this coronavirus thing back in the day, and maybe I'm going to run out of toilet paper, like whatever.
Right.
You can kind of be aware of what's going on. Hey, look, I see beef shortages, or hey, but paying attention and knowing what's going on definitely have, an effect on what we do. And you just need to kind of be aware, but my point is, don't let it consume you and overwhelm you. Yeah. And maybe take it with a grain of salt, and maybe, give your time that you're willing to give. Don't commit to everything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, I know that, for me personally, I'm a news junkie. I'm always listening to the news, always watching the news. I'm flipping, through all the stations. Fox, MSNBC, CNN, every station, every angle, trying to get it all in because I've been prepping all this time and I'm waiting for the collapse. If that balloon had a nuclear payload on it and it detonated at that height over Colorado, it could have shut down power for a large portion of the United States. Anytime the nuclear bomb detonates, it sends out an electromagnetic pulse, right? And it fries all the smaller circuits. Your phone's going to be dead. Your car is going to be dead. The lights in your house aren't going to come on anymore. Those are the things that people are people are unaware of, the real danger of some sort of catastrophe that you didn't even see coming. You know what I mean? We barely even know about that balloon before the fucking TV goes off and the radio goes off, and then we have no idea what's going on.
Right.
And those are the sorts of things, those are the sorts of threats that that people don't consider. And obviously, you're not going to set off a nuclear bomb over the United States. It's not going to work out well for you. But wouldn't work out well for us either. And, you wonder why America has such shit healthcare. Well, that's because we can, roll an army into any other country in the world a drop of a hat. That's where we're putting our money. You know what I mean?
Right. Well,
you want to worry about that sort of stuff, then,
the whole system with healthcare, there's so much overhead. It's funny. I was so excited when you started seeing like the urgent cares pop up, because the majority of them were like kind of cash operations. Like you walk in, you pay $150, you get your doctor visit, and that's what it is. And like insurance was kind of irrelevant. And now they're kind of like more and more like mini hospitals. You know what I'm saying? Like now it's kind of really getting back into that insurance nonsense game and not, the other way. I don't really go to the doctor enough to really know, but I know I've done urgent care early on, and it was like, oh, no insurance, no problem, $150, whatever, you're good. Right. And the thing is, I used to have a buddy who was a chiropractor, and he was telling me, he was like, yeah, the way Medicaid is and stuff, he's like, I get like $9 a visit, and, and the rest goes to overhead and nonsense.
Right.
And he's like, if I could get somebody to walk in, like he'd offered me, he's like, look, if you give me $30 a visit, that's a huge win for me. Right. And I'll take you at that as a cash customer. Because he's like, that's better than what I'm getting with the insurance. Whereas the insurance company's billing it at like, $150 or whatever.
Right.
And everybody's getting paid along the way. Yeah, right. It's just like nonsense.
Yeah.
And,
my wife had cancer a couple of years ago, and that, I think the total bills were, somewhere around $300,000, a little bit over.
Yeah.
But, here's the thing though, you get cancer, that means you have to stop working. That means your health insurance is gone. That means you don't have the income that you had,
Right.
And we were lucky and able to keep the insurance, but it still, even with the insurance, it still cost us, $9,000-$10,000, a year for 2 years. That's a lot of money to come out of your pocket when one of the people isn't working anymore.
Insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing. That's why that stuff just cripples you. And that's the thing. It becomes overwhelming where you're like, oh, I just can't even anymore. And like you said, if I can't pay any of my bill, or I can't pay the majority of my bills, it doesn't do me any good to pay the rest of them,
Right.
If you're going to let that shit burn, you may as well burn it to the ground,
Exactly.
That's how it is. But no, I appreciate you guys watching this, and it's awesome if you like and subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel. That really helps us out. If you're listening on the podcast, if you would go ahead and, maybe leave a review wherever you download it. We appreciate that. A lot of them don't even really do that anymore. It does help though.
Reviews are real big if you can find some place to leave a review.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it plays out. You have thoughts, concerns, things you want to email us about, questions, you like what we're doing, you don't like what we're doing, let us know. We can maybe shape the world into a better place. We all want to get better, right? So with that, I would say stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.
The Survival and Basic Badass Podcast is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.